Okay, so after some delays, I am joined by and what I mean by that is Jeff, you had a flat tire a few weeks ago, but thanks for coming on. Jeff Rimmer, formerly play-by-play guy for Columbus Blue Jackets recently, and yeah, thanks for coming on. It's such a small world. I remember watching your brother years ago in Saskatchewan. He was my sports center, watching him there with the Late Warren Woods. So life comes at you fast.
Yeah, it sure does. Ron did a great job, I thought, back in the day in Saskatchewan there on that nightly sports show.
Yeah.
He certainly has had a great career. He's retired now, and he's there in Winnipeg. So you should look him up sometime.
Yeah, I did a few about a year ago. We had lunch, so yeah, it was fun to have lunch with him, and I dare say he was kind of one of my heroes growing up. So it was good. But yeah, yeah, I love it again. Have people on the show just tell about the journey. So let's kind of rewind the clock. And how did you kind of get started in broadcasting? Who were kind of your inspirations and that sort of thing?
Well, it all started probably in Toronto,
Mhm.
growing up until I was 14 and then moving to Calgary. But I was a huge Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and Frank Mahovlich was my favorite player. And it's my first love and still is, although in my career I've done baseball, college, and the pro football, but Olympics, but very much still my number one sport is hockey. I was a big Leaf fan, as I said. I went to the Stanley Cup parade in 1967. That's the last time the Leafs won. And then I bolted and moved to Calgary. So maybe the Leafs haven't won a cup because I left Toronto. But moved to Calgary. Mom remarried, and we moved out west. Walked into homeroom in the 10th grade. The first person I saw there is still my best friend here today, and that's John Davidson. And of course, the
Okay.
electric career that he has. Yeah, yeah. JD and
Wow.
I hooked up at Henry Wisewood in Calgary. We used to skip typing class in the 10th grade and went to the outdoor rink just outside our class. And we're out on the ice in the outdoor rink, and JD came with this bright idea. He was trying out for AAA, and of course was a draft pick of the St. Louis Blues.
Hmm.
But yeah, an illustrious junior career with the Calgary Centennials, but preceded by his start in AAA midget. And he came up with a bright idea that I should try out for the team as well. I had no shot of making it, but he said, "Hey, the extra ice time will do you well."
Yeah.
I'm the first player in the history of AAA hockey in Calgary to be cut before, I emphasize, before practice started. There were some 200 plus kids on the ice at Rosecon Arena, and I got tapped on the shoulder, and I was told that House League starts on Monday. And I
Hmm.
was on a snowbank, wasn't even on the ice for House League. And I said, at that point, this hockey career is coming to an abrupt end. And I turned my focus and attention to my first love, and that was hockey and to be a hockey broadcaster. So I was motivated, finished high school, went to Mount Royal College in Calgary, took the radio, TV communications program,
Hmm.
and at the age of 19, found myself on the radio in Calgary, CFAC, doing weekend sports updates. And on television, I convinced the cable TV station to give me a half-hour show on the community channel. And we ended up, subsequent to that, doing some junior hockey games of the Centennials when Danny Gare, Mike Rogers, and JD were the highlights of that team. And they were kind of leading the way as the leadership group. And that kind of worked into a full-time job in Lethbridge, went there to do TV, radio, sports. And as it turned out, I got the late night television news weather and sports on CJOC, was there for 6 months, got offered a job after going and meeting with the staff and Ernie Afghani's at CBC in Edmonton, and ended up doing TV sports, did the Olympics in 76, And then after the Olympics, I know this is a long and winding road,
Oh, it's all
but
good.
after the Olympics, moved to LA with my wife, who's from Los Angeles, ended up doing TV sports there, almost got hired by the Kings to do radio play-by-play. But Jack Kent Cook, who's Canadian, by the way, said I sounded too Canadian and wouldn't hire me. And then we decided to go to Montreal. After I was originally offered a job to go back to CBC in Calgary, but Dick Urban called in the afternoon after I accepted the job, said, "Hey, I want you here to get a chance to do some work on the Canadians broadcast. They paid me an extra $1,000 a year." And I moved to Montreal and did the Canadians pre and post game, did the Expos pre and post game, and the career kind of took off from there.
That's kind of crazy when you say, "Hey, the Canadian voice." I can't help but think about, the Peter Jennings of the world. The Americans do like that Canadian voice as a rule. So I find I find that fascinating.
Well, it was uh, it was kind of a blow because I was looking forward to remaining in LA. I got that weekend TV job, but I couldn't get a full-time job. But things worked out. Went to Canada
Hmm.
and worked in Montreal. And the general manager that hired me in Montreal uh, asked me if I wanted to join him in Baltimore at WBAL. And he wanted me to be the sports director there and help bring the Orioles back at the University of Maryland football and basketball. So it was an easy move, and ended up doing Capitals and hockey in Washington, but in Baltimore, I was doing a talk show
Hmm.
and as well doing the Orioles stuff.
That's kind of wild, right? That's when Cal Ripken Jr. there. He started in '83 and had that consecutive streak up until '95, September of '95. So yeah, you were kind of in the meat and potatoes there, definitely. Who were some of your kind of your role models that have played a pivotal role in your life?
Uh, Probably the biggest was Western Canadian sportscaster Ken Newens at what was it, CFCN in Calgary. He gave me my first radio job in Calgary doing a high school and college sports report once a week. And he was kind of the guy that guided me and said I'd probably upset a lot of people along the way because I was so aggressive, but he said, "You're only going to get better." And Kenny and I became very close. He was almost like a father figure. I'd lost my dad, and he probably was the biggest influence on my career. And of course, working for Ernie Afghani's, working for Dick Irvin, going to the States and working the Olympics alongside Chris Schenkel and taking it all in, working with Bob Costas and Brent Musburger. Yeah, it's been a storied career for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, you bring up names like the Dick Urbans and the Bob Costas and kind of the Bob Costas is that storyteller. So when you were did you kind of implement that in your career, being a storyteller as well as being incorporating that with being a play-by-play guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I'll go a step further here with you. I am in the process of writing a book on my career and some amazing stories. So you can look for that out sometime next fall, just before the hockey season. But it's going to be talking to the publisher on a weekly basis. They're pretty excited about this book, and it's going to be a lot of humor, some serious stuff, and really in-depth story on my career.
Definitely. You'll have to come to McNally Robinson in Winnipeg to do a Q&A, and then you could do a book signing there, maybe. I don't know, just
Oh,
putting that out there.
I hope so.
That's
Hope
how
it's the
I
plan.
that's how I got to meet and have James Duffy on the program a few weeks ago. So with his books. So yeah, it's kind of neat. I'll even volunteer to do it with you if you
What's
want.
that?
I'll even volunteer to do it with you if you
All
want me
right.
to ask the questions. We can plan on that maybe. It's on record. Uh,
Whatever.
go ahead.
I said whatever. We can
Yeah,
certainly do something.
yeah, for sure. Good, good. Favorite. So you were in. So you did the Panthers, Capitals, Blue Jackets. Um, again, were they unique unto themselves, or were they kind of all the same?
Uh, well, doing hockey for any team at any time is special. And I was fortunate enough to be in the National Hockey League for 47 years,
Mhm.
uh, play by play for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Uh, each situation was unique in its own right. My first play by play on television was the Washington Capitals. I broke in at the same time as Craig Laughlin, who is still doing the color on Capitals telecasts. Was offered a job with the expansion team, Florida.
Hmm.
I'm the first broadcaster in the history of the National Hockey League to do two teams in one season because I did the Capitals games and a limited schedule that was the plan in Florida. Uh, they gave me a 1 year deal. They said, if you are happy with us and we're happy with you, you'll get a long-term deal, and got a 4 year deal after that initial year. Uh, it was great. We went to the finals in the third year of the franchise in 1996, led by John Van Beesbrook and a great group of veterans and leaders on that team. That was an experience within itself. Then the lockout came in 2004, and I was offered the chance to go to Columbus. Actually, Doug McLean, who was the coach in '96, wanted me to come when the franchise started in 2000, but I wasn't leaving Florida, had a contract. But when the lockout came,
Hmm.
originally Fox signed me to 4 years. The contract was rejected in New York because of the potential of the lockout. So what they decided to do was do a 2 year contract, no lockout, but it was generally known that Bettman was not going to open up the doors until he had that salary cap.
Yeah.
So they did 2+2 and made an offer after that second year when it did appear as if there was going to be the lockout. Dennis Potvin and I, my broadcast partner and the Hall of Fame defenseman, were offered a sheet of paper with the same deal in the event of a lockout. It was not an ideal contract, and there were several stipulations that I didn't like and my agent didn't like. And in the meantime, Doug said, I want you in Columbus, and you can pick your own analyst. You can do whatever you want, and I'll pay you during the lockout. It won't be your full salary, but I'll keep you at least to the point of getting a decent amount of money to get through the lockout year, because we knew at that point it was likely for the year.
Yeah.
So, as it turned out, 20 years in Columbus, and looking back, it was the best move I could make. Columbus is a great city. Fans are exceptional. The team was, even though we didn't really accomplish what we wanted to do on the ice, it was a great place to play. The team, the leadership, the fans, the management. I just loved every minute of the 20 years in Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, you had guys like, a Rick Nash and, establishing that culture, great playoff series versus Tampa Bay, which were just amazing, and kind of debunked the myth that Ohio is just about the Buckeyes, or, LeBron James and that sort of thing, right? It just seemed like there's a hockey culture there.
No, no question. The Buckeyes were number one and are still number one, but the Jackets are there rivaling what is a great football program and a great university in Ohio State. I became a Buckeye fan, and I don't miss a game. Even I'm a distance away from downtown Columbus, where I kind of set up shop near the arena. But yeah, they're on the map, and they're a young team even today. They've always been a young team, but some of that young team has matured, and I think they're on the cusp of some great things in Central Ohio.
Yeah, no doubt, right? I don't follow too closely just based on, busyness of life, but with Ryan Day there, they won last year, and just, yeah, they seem to be, as you say, on the up and up. So it's good, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Any broadcasting routines that you had as a broadcaster? Did you eat the same thing, or on game days, or like a player?
Well, yeah, the game day is very much a routine, and actually starts the night before because I'll either watch the team the Blue Jackets are watching live if there's back to back, or if it's a team that hasn't played for a day or two, I'll
Mhm.
go to the video and pick up nuances, get the lines, get stories. You can never be over prepared. Then we get to the morning of the game day, and I'm on the computer for a couple of hours. I'm doing my notes. I will then head to the morning skate, talk to both teams, talk to both coaches. Obviously, we have a production meeting, discuss how we're going to tackle the game that night. Go home, have lunch, do a little more work based on what I was able to pick up at the arena. Uh, After lunch, shower, and head back to the rink, and usually have a meal in the press room, and then uh, head to the booth, usually about an hour and a half to 2 hours before the game. So, yeah, it's definitely a routine and one that I live by.
Yeah, nice. Um, favorite rink to broadcast a game in, or least favorite rink to broadcast a game in?
Oh boy. Favorite rinks are the Canadian rinks because we're closer to the ice.
Okay.
And I love broadcasting, obviously, in Toronto because that's where I grew up. One of the best rinks is Vancouver. The gondola there is sensational.
Hmm.
Um, Always great to broadcast in Montreal, where I spent 7 years, and that too is the gondola. The rinks are so much better broadcast wise for the most part. There are some exceptions. One of them, I'm going to surprise you, is Edmonton, because originally in Edmonton, the plan was with the new building there, and it is beautiful, was to build a gondola, but they ran out of money. So it's a normal press box way up high, but in Edmonton, not only is it high because it's a huge arena,
Yeah.
but you're far back.
Yeah.
And with the Oiler jerseys, the home jerseys in particular, which are tough to read the numbers, it's probably the worst in the NHL now. And I'm not alone. And talking to other broadcasters, they feel the same way.
Hmm.
But there are some great rinks in the U.S. Bottom line, Detroit's new building. Interesting story there. Ken Daniels, fellow Canadian, and Mickey Redmond, a Canadian, they actually mapped out and measured the distance between the press box gondola and the ice. And they duplicated that in the new Little Caesars Arena. So it's identical to the Montreal Bell Center as far as where that press box is or broadcast booth is and where you are hanging over the ice.
Right on. It's good. Yeah, they have to make the jobs easy because yeah, I kind of wonder how they do that, right?
Right.
Uh, again, maybe there's spotters and that sort of thing with binoculars. I've heard of
Don't have a
that. So
spotter. We don't have a spotter. We don't need a spotter. We know everything. We have a stats guy and we have a
yes,
stage manager, but we're not football. We don't need a spotter.
no, yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. Right on. Where else was I gonna go? Where yeah, so kind of describe, your last game that you broadcasted. Again, the players saluted, obviously emotional time for you. What were kind of your thoughts kind of going through your head there?
Well, they honored me on the 30th of March, one of my last home games. And that was quite an emotional evening. And the Blue Jackets, I mean, they went above and beyond. My last game was a memorable one. Uh, it was difficult to broadcast, knowing that, that was it. It was my choice to retire. In retrospect, I probably should have got another year or two, but I wanted to spend time with my wife. Uh, she deserved it. She basically raised the kids while I was gallivanting all over North America. And also my grandson. He had just turned 7 and was really into sports, both as a player and loved football and hockey. And I just wanted to spend more time with him. It was great for the almost 2 years now, but unfortunately, his dad found a new job and was out of town. So here I am spending time or hoping to spend time with him. And they shuffled off to Baltimore.
I see. Okay. Um, The players, the relationship with the players, any particular relationships that stood out with you in Columbus? I can't help but think about the late Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah, I was actually had a great conversation, several conversations with Johnny over the 2 years that he was a Blue Jacket. But I actually became very close to his dad, Guy. We would watch practice together on off days. We'd watch the morning skate together. Just a tremendous hockey person and very knowledgeable. He coached his two boys. And I'll tell you, he could have stepped onto the ice and helped coach the Blue Jackets. He was that into the game. Uh, he actually told me 2 years before Sean Monahan signed the free agent contract that Monahan wanted to come to Columbus and again play with Gaudreau as he did in Calgary.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was something. But I've had great relationships with athletes throughout my long career. I mean, Montreal, all those Canadians players were my age, and I was very close with them. We all lived, most of them lived on the West Island near me, so became very close with the likes of Doug Risebrough and Larry Robinson and Brian Engblom, and I could go on and on and on and recite the whole team. Then, of course, in Baltimore, doing baseball, I got very close to the Ripkins, Cal and Billy, and their dad, Cal Sr. And I've always been close, as I say, with athletes, and I've always kind of gone out of my way to understand them more than just on the field or ice, whichever they played. And I'm very fortunate. One of my best friends, and unfortunately passed away far too early, and that's Gary Carter, because our families lived
Mm.
again on the West Island, and he's from California. My wife's from California. His wife's from California. Our kids basically grew up in their early years together. And then to see Gary pass away from a brain cancer situation that was inoperable was pretty tough to take. And of course, I saw him just weeks before he passed away.
Yeah, he was definitely a staple on those broadcasts for sure, and you know an Expo legend, and played with the Mets as well. So yeah, very fascinating, right? Because at the end of the day, we watch. I remember watching these players on the ice through the TV, but then you get to know them, and you see that other side of it. I recently had lunch with a former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, and there's layers beyond the surface, and it's just interesting to see how these guys all kind of tick. The James
Yeah,
Duffy book has about 72 stories in here, as the book's beside me, and it's just like, wow, you just there. If you peel the onion back, um, it's a fascinating study, no doubt.
sure is. We're very fortunate to have lived the lives that we have lived and are living. There's nothing better. I don't think I ever worked a day in my life, to be honest with you.
Well, that's what they say, right? If you love what you do, then you've never worked a day. So that's awesome. That's good. Um, anything else you'd like to cover here, Jeff? This has been awesome. I always watch the clock. So
Well, it's going to come out in the book. I don't know how aware you are of my battle with Pete Rose back in my days with the Expos and me actually helping him get to Montreal.
hmm,
That's the story. At the age of 19, while I was working in Calgary, you might be too young to remember, but Muhammad Ali was stripped of the heavyweight title. He came to Calgary to fight at the Stampede grounds to fight three-round exhibitions against nobody, literally after he was relieved of the title because he wouldn't go to Vietnam. I went to the press conference with my best shirt, tie, and sport coat and wanted to do an interview with him and talk to Angelo Dundee, who I would later get to know even better because his gym where Ali trained was in Miami, and that's where the Panthers first started at the Miami Arena.
mhm.
Anyway, I went up to Dundee and I said, "Hey, Angelo, I want to talk to the champ." And he said, "No problem, young man. Once the one-on-ones are done, you'll get a chance to do yours." He said, "You have a camera?" And I said, "No, sir, but I have a studio a mile and a half up the road." here on McLeod Trail, just a little north of the Stampede grounds. And he said, well, we'll talk to the champ and see if that's possible. After the press conference and the one-on-ones, Ali shuffles over to Angelo and says, okay, let's go, Angelo, time to leave. And Angelo Dundee turns to me and points and he says, hey, champ, this young man here wants to interview you. Well, lo and behold, Ali looks over at me and kind of gives me the once over and he says, okay, kid, where's your camera? And I said, hey, champ, I don't have a camera, but I got a studio up the road. Well, the place broke out in laughter. First of all, I was kind of, you heard of the rink rat? I was a media rat. And all the local radio and TV guys knew me. Uh, the national guys were there from across the country. This, after all, was the heavyweight champion of the world. And lo and behold, there were the US networks there as well. So here, I'm asking the heavyweight champion of the world to drive in his limo up McLeod Trail in Calgary. Well, Ali looks around and hears everybody breaking out in laughter, thinking this kid's got a lot of nerve or something else that I'll keep to myself because it's a family show. And Ali sees them, looks at them all laughing, and he says, okay, kid, I'll be there. Turns to the limo driver. Do you know where he's talking about? He said, yeah, it's a mile and a half up the road. It's the top of the hill here. So I race off to the studio, tell them to get it ready. Nobody believes me that Ali's coming. I had to convince him to set the studio up, get the cameras fired up because he, in fact, was coming. Well, word spread through the building, a three-story building, that the heavyweight champion of the world's coming. All the secretaries and support personnel were all hanging out in the lobby. And in walks the general manager after lunch, and he says, what's the fuss? What's everybody doing here in the lobby? Well, Jeff Rimmer says that the heavyweight champion of the world's coming. And he kind of smirks and he says, yeah, sure, okay. But about 5 minutes later, with everybody standing around watching, in walks the heavyweight champion, Muhammad Ali. We sit down. I do a 22-minute show for a half-hour show. Then he turns to the camera and then looks at me and he says, hey, kid, what did you say your name was? And I said, Jeff Rimmer. He turned around, stood up at the camera and said, I predict in 5 years, Jeff Rimmer will be the greatest, the most outstanding, the most controversial sportscaster in the world. I said, thank you. He said, in your dreams, got up and walked out. True story.
Wow, that's
That's
phenomenal.
in the book too.
That's crazy. That's wild. That's that's life, right? That's experiences. That's beyond that's peeling back the onion.
It goes
Uh,
back to Ken Newens telling me that I had a big pair, and I upset some people, but at the end of the day, I'd get the job done. So that's
right.
basically my career.
Yeah, and and by the sounds of it, as you've talked here for as we've been talking for the last half hour, you're a real go-getter. It doesn't see you were, and that's why you got where you were.
Total focus.
Yeah.
It's all I dreamed of, and it's all I prepared for, and it's all I did.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm going to try to instill in young people that have dreams of following in my footsteps. When one door closes, another one's going to open. When one stone needs to be overturned, you be the one to turn it around. So, yeah, I'm going to try to motivate some young people here along the way as well.
Nice. Well, I've been told I'm middle aged, but you've motivated me here this morning, Jeff. So it's good. I do appreciate it. It's awesome.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on and again making the time. And I know I said this before I pressed record. We can always have a part two, but you and your family have a Merry Christmas and all the best in the new year.
Well, thanks for having me, and
Yeah.
don't be hesitant. Call me again, and certainly when the book comes out, we'll join you again and
Okay.
talk a little bit more about my career and the book. Help promote
Sure.
it.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's go. Right on. Good deal. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and Jeff, I'll put this on my YouTube channel as well, and then we can go from there. That's where people can view it. If you're interested, where people can watch it, that's where they can. So
Yep,
go from
we
there.
certainly will.
Right on.
Best of luck to you too, Steve.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good
Bye-bye.
deal. Take care. Bye bye.